Hey, it's Francisco, and welcome to today's video. If you've ever dreamed of making your own game but weren't sure where to start, you're in the right place. In this video, I'm going to share everything I've learned about creating a game on your own, based on my experience with the Fight Aftermath. Creating a game by yourself is an incredible journey that combines creativity, technical skill, and a lot of perseverance. In this video, I'm going to guide you through the entire process, from concept to completion, so you can make a game alone. First, let's talk about the mindset needed for game development. Making a game solo is challenging, and it's easy to feel overwhelmed. There will be times when you doubt yourself, when progress feels slow, and when the weight of the task feels heavy. But the key to overcoming these challenges is consistency. You don't need to have all the answers at once. Just take one step at a time. Embrace the learning curve and stay patient. Every problem you solve along the way will make you a better game developer. Let's break down the process into manageable stages, each one crucial to creating a finished game. We'll cover everything from the very first idea to the final marketing push. Here's what you'll need to know. 1. Concept and planning. The first step in creating a game is coming up with an idea. You might already have a game concept in mind, but if not, take some time to brainstorm. Think about the type of game you want to make: platformer, shooter, RPG, or puzzle. Identify what excites you. A good concept should be simple enough to execute, but complex enough to engage players. At this stage, you don't need to worry about every little detail, focus on the big picture. Define the genre, gameplay mechanics, and the overall experience. Once you have a basic concept, create a game design document, GDD. This document is your blueprint. It helps you outline the game's objectives, mechanics, controls, art style, and narrative. It doesn't have to be perfect, but it will guide you as you move forward. A game design document doesn't need to be overly complicated, but it should be thorough. For example, if you're making a platformer, describe the movement mechanics, obstacles, enemies, and power-ups. If it's a puzzle game, explain how the puzzles will work, how difficulty will increase, and how the player's progression will be tracked. 2. Choosing tools and platforms. Now, let's talk about the tools you'll need. The most important decision you'll make is the game engine. If you're working solo, you want a tool that's easy to learn, but still powerful. I recommend starting with Unity or Unreal Engine. Both are free to use and have large communities with plenty of tutorials. Unity is particularly great for 2D and 3D games and has a vast asset store, which is a lifesaver for solo developers. When deciding which platform to target, PC, mobile, or console, consider the audience you want to reach and your personal skills. If you're targeting mobile, Unity has a lot of tools for optimizing mobile games. If you want to develop for PC or consoles, Unreal Engine offers high-quality visuals and performance. 3. Prototyping. Before diving deep into development, it's crucial to build a prototype. A prototype is a small version of your game that helps you test the core mechanics. It doesn't need to have any graphics or polish, it's just about making sure the gameplay works. For example, if you're making a platformer, create a basic level where the character can move, jump, and interact with the environment. Prototyping lets you identify potential issues early on. It allows you to experiment with mechanics and make sure they are fun and intuitive. This stage is all about iterating quickly and testing your ideas. 4. Development, core mechanics. Once you've tested your prototype and are happy with the gameplay mechanics, it's time to move on to full development. This is where you'll spend most of your time, coding the game, designing levels, creating assets, and more. You'll need to focus on creating the core mechanics first. These are the gameplay systems that will form the foundation of your game. For example, in a platformer, the core mechanics are the movement system, jumping, and collision detection. In a shooting game, you'd focus on the shooting mechanics, enemy AI, and health systems. It's important to break down the game into smaller, manageable tasks. Tackle one feature at a time, and don't try to build everything at once. Start with the basic gameplay loop and refine it before moving on to more complex systems. If you try to add everything at once, you'll get overwhelmed. Make sure each mechanic feels fun and satisfying before moving on to the next. 5. Art and sound. As a solo developer, you might not be an artist or a sound designer, and that's okay. While it's ideal to create your own assets, many developers use pre-made assets, especially in the early stages. The Unity Asset Store, for example, offers a ton of free and paid assets that you can use for your game. If you do decide to make your own assets, there are a few things to keep in mind. Stick to a consistent art style that fits the mood of your game. Keep things simple, especially for 2D games. You don't need highly detailed assets. Pixel art or simple shapes can often convey your message just as well. For sound, you can find royalty-free music and sound effects online or create your own. Sound adds a lot to the atmosphere of your game, so don't overlook it. Consider how music can set the tone for different levels or moments in the game. 6. Level design. Once the core mechanics and assets are in place, it's time to design the levels. This is one of the most important parts of game development because it's what players will experience. Each level should feel unique and build upon the mechanics introduced earlier in the game. You don't want to overwhelm the player, but you also don't want the game to feel too easy. Level design is about creating challenges that make sense in the context of the game's mechanics. For example, in a platformer, you might create a level that introduces a new mechanic, like timed jumps or enemies with special abilities. Each level should feel like a progression, adding more complexity as the player advances. Playtest your levels as you design them. Invite friends or others to play and provide feedback. Use their input to refine the experience. 7. Testing and debugging. Once your game is fully playable, it's time for testing and debugging. This is where the real work begins. You'll need to test everything: gameplay, performance, UI, controls, and more. This is a long and tedious process, but it's essential. Even small bugs or glitches can break the experience for players, so it's important to fix them as you go. At this stage, it's important to get feedback from external testers. You've probably played your game a lot by now, so it's hard to see the flaws. Having fresh eyes on the game will help you spot issues you might have missed. Testing is also a great time to make sure the game runs well on different devices. If you're making a mobile game, for example, test it on multiple phones and screen sizes. Ensure the game is optimized for performance. If it's slow or crashes on some devices, players will be turned off. 8. Marketing and promotion. Marketing your game is something you should start thinking about long before your game is finished. The earlier you start, the better. There are tons of indie game developers out there, and standing out can be difficult. Start building a community around your game as early as possible. Share progress updates, screenshots, and behind-the-scenes content on social media. Engage with your audience and respond to comments. The more people know about your game, the more likely they'll support it when it launches. Consider making a website or a landing page for your game. This can act as your central hub for everything related to your game, including trailers, screenshots, and news updates. If you're planning to launch on Steam or another platform, be sure to set up your page early and start gathering wishlists. It's also important to reach out to influencers, streamers, and YouTubers. Getting your game in front of their audience can help generate buzz and increase visibility. But remember, don't spam people, and instead, approach them with a personalized message and show them why your game is unique. 9. Launch and post-launch. Finally, it's time to launch your game. This is a big moment, and you should be proud of what you've accomplished. But the launch isn't the end of the process. Post-launch support is crucial. Be prepared to fix bugs, update the game, and listen to player feedback. You might also want to consider releasing additional content like new levels or features to keep players engaged. Keep communicating with your community, and continue to promote your game. 10. Reflection and future projects. Once the game is out, take some time to reflect on what you've learned. What worked well? What would you do differently next time? Game development is a continuous learning process, and each project will teach you something new. Don't be afraid to fail. Each failure is a stepping stone towards becoming a better developer. If you plan on making another game, use the lessons from your first project to improve. You'll be more efficient, more creative, and more confident. The journey of creating a game alone is hard, but it's incredibly rewarding. Keep creating, and don't be afraid to follow your passion. That's a wrap on today's video. I hope this guide helps you take the first steps in making your own game. Remember, it's all about starting small, staying consistent, and learning as you go. Making a game on your own isn't easy, but with the right mindset and approach, you can do it. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like, subscribe for more game dev content, and creating a game alone is a complex and rewarding journey. From initial concept to final launch, it requires dedication, skill, and a clear plan. By breaking the process into manageable stages, concept and planning, choosing tools, prototyping, development, art and sound creation, level design, testing, marketing, and post-launch, you can stay focused and motivated. Don't rush, each step builds on the last. Embrace challenges, learn from mistakes, and enjoy the process. Remember, every problem solved makes you a better game developer. Stay consistent and always push yourself to learn more.